Hey everyone! Before this video starts, let me make a quick announcement. This video contains mentions of alexithymia, a lot of swearing, and a background of a relationship that isn't just written through rose-tinted glasses. I tried to make their dynamic realistic as possible, while also making sure the right amount of fluff and delulu are present 𝙬𝙗𝐿𝐻. This is based on the community poll, thanks for voting. Next up will be Sakuatsu, so keep an eye out. Enjoy, and don't forget to smile. It was sweltering. Although it isn't unusual in Miyagi Prefecture to experience this scorching weather, Shiratorizawa's volleyball boys' only problem as of now isn't just the scorching hot weather. It was also the fact that they run out of, not only their energy from playing a practice match against each other, water, too. Not one of their water bottles was filled with at least a single drop of water. Shirabu wipes away the beads of sweat that trickled down the side of his face and started pulling on his jersey repeatedly, fanning himself. The worst part of that afternoon was that there wasn't a single cool breeze that could help ease the humidity that makes them feel like they are inside a large oven. I feel like I'm going to collapse. It's so hot. Way to go for stating the obvious. Do you need a medal for that? 𝙤𝙗𝐿𝐻 glares at him and sank down on the walls to sit beside him, throwing his head back as he started imitating Shirabu and using his jersey as a fan himself. I don't care if you're older than me, I will literally fight you. Don't start a fight, you will never win, Tsutomu. It's fucking on. Shirabu and 𝙤𝙗𝐿𝐻 were about to grab one another's damp jersey, due to how much they were sweating, until a hand was placed on top of Shirabu and 𝙤𝙗𝐿𝐻's shoulder. My oh my, Kenjiro. You really do tend to start fights every time the heat gets to you. Shirabu tensed. And you, Tsutomu, are like a carbon copy of Shirabu but in different fonts. You two shouldn't get on each other's nerves, knowing damn well how pissed off you two get whenever it gets hot and you don't get to cool off. Shirabu and 𝙤𝙗𝐿𝐻 gave each other one last look, then scoffed, looking away with their noses sticking up. 𝙗𝙗𝙗𝙗 sighed. As long as you two aren't fighting anymore, you can act like preschoolers all you want. Shirabu and 𝙤𝙗𝐻 snapped their heads towards a smug 𝙗𝙗𝙗 who already squatted in front of them, cross-legged. I am not a preschooler. You sure are acting like one right now. Shirabu scoffs. It's not my fault, Dora over here starts stating the obvious. As if we didn't know already, you aren't the only one feeling hot. 𝙤𝙗𝐻 gritted his teeth, his face turning red. 𝙗𝙗𝙗 covers his mouth with his fist, looking away. Not my damn fault you have anger issues, I was only saying what was on my mind. And who the fuck are you calling Dora? Your damn hair looks like a broomstick, and you're fucking built like one too. 𝙗𝙗𝙗 couldn't hold it in him any longer as he started wailing on the floor, clutching his stomach as tears welled up in both of his eyes, laughing hysterically. Shirabu, without warning, pounced on 𝙤𝙗𝐻 and grabbed the latter's jersey with force as he pinned him to the ground. 𝙗𝙗𝙗, who was still laughing, tried to break the two boys apart, struggling. The rest of the team noticed the commotion and jogged towards the fight, prying the two from each other's grasps. Kawanishi and Yamagata smirked at the scene and then gave each other knowing looks. How much are you betting that Shirabu will win? Whoa now, 𝙤𝙗𝐻 will surely win this one. You're kidding? Look at Shirabu, he's all over 𝙤𝙗𝐻. 100 yen. Deal. 𝙗𝙗𝙗, who was still struggling to pry the two boys who were screaming profanities at each other, glared at the two who were grinning down at them. A little help here would be appreciated, you know. But it's getting to the good part, though. Give it one more minute, Satori. There won't be another minute unless one of them is dead. Now that's a bit too dramatic. As 𝙗𝙗𝙗 was about to retort, he suddenly felt a chilling presence hovering over them, making everyone stop what they were doing and freeze. 𝙤𝙗𝐻 and Shirabu squeaked when they saw Ashijima's cold demeanor, his arms crossed and his mouth paper thin. 𝙤𝙗𝐻, Shirabu, stop this nonsense. Now. 𝙤𝙗𝐻 and Shirabu scrambled to get off of each other and sat beside one another, shaking and fiddling on the hems of their jerseys. We're sorry, Ashijima-san. Yeah, we're sorry. 𝙤𝙗𝐻 mumbles under his breath. I'm not sorry I destroyed that broomstick's face, though. Shirabu was about to pounce on a smirking 𝙤𝙗𝐻 until he felt another chilling gaze staring intently at him. 𝙤𝙗𝐻 felt the same and quickly uttered a genuine apology, bowing his head, with Shirabu following suit. 𝙤𝙧 shakes his head, then walks off to the other side of the gym, where the volleyball balls were. 𝙤𝙗𝙗 whistled at the two boys' distraught faces. Be glad that it was Wakatoshi who caught you two instead of Coach Washijo. Coach would definitely punish you two into running 100 laps around the school. Shirabu grimaced, knowing well enough that Coach would definitely do that as punishment. Goshiki, on the other hand, covered his face with both of his palms, sulking. I can't believe 𝙤𝙧-san saw me like that. Oh god, he thinks I'm a feral child now. Aren't you already one? Shut up. 𝙤𝙗𝙗 sighed exasperatedly, flopping on the floor with his head tilted to the side. It's so hot. Yeah, it really is. How come when I say it you have an issue with me, but if 𝙤𝙗𝙗-san says it you agree? Shirabu bit the inside of his cheek, squinting his eyes. He felt a little bit heated, only a little. He didn't mean to start a fight. It was scorching hot that afternoon, and everyone felt so dehydrated in the gym that the floor was almost filled with sweat. Shirabu, ignoring Goshiki's tantrum, kept on glancing towards the gym doors, where he was expectantly waiting for a silver-haired boy to enter, hopefully for good news that their shortage of water in Shiratorizawa would be fixed. Of course, it's not like he misses him anyway. Why would he? Shirabu taps his fingers on his foot impatiently, his body itching to run towards the door and find him, not realizing that his faint tapping on his thighs was beginning to pick up speed. He might just miss Semi, only a little. The door suddenly bursts open, revealing an exhausted and sweaty Semi, along with their coach, who looked like he hadn't felt the heat under the school's jacket. 𝙤𝙗𝙗 glared at their coach subtly. Does coach not feel hot? It's literally so hot right now, and he's not affected at all. That's a bit scary. Shirabu and Goshiki nodded in unison, grimacing. Well, at least you two agreed on something today. I'll count that as a win in my book. Shirabu and Goshiki scoffed, facing away from each other. It was fun while it lasted. Semi jogs towards the group huddled in the other end of the gym, a small smile on his lips as he waves over at Shirabu, not sparing a glance at the other members who were looking up at him in expectation. Hey, bub. Semi walked up to Shirabu and ruffled his hair, making Shirabu groan in dismay. Did you miss me? No, not really. Shirabu mentally scolded himself, why can't he be more affectionate? He frowns briefly, thinking about how he has a hard time being affectionate towards his boyfriend. This has been bothering him for a number of times, even when they started dating. He knows that Semi's aware that he has a hard time doing so, but he was constantly reassured that Semi was, also, like him. It didn't exactly convince him, because he had always been flirting with him with sweet nothings, and was naturally romantic, if it was a thing. It's not like he doesn't show emotions or don't say he loves him through words, it just doesn't come naturally to him. It felt like it was always at the tips of his tongue, but could never be uttered. It was always a playful insult that leaves his mouth, in which in the end he regrets saying. Although, Semi did reassure him that he understood his problem, it still doesn't sit well with him. It bothers him, a lot. Semi smirks down at him, then squatted next to him. He gave Shirabu a quick kiss on his cheek and glanced at the others huddled together, whose faces were either bored or annoyed. That is so disgusting, please don't do that in front of me ever again. I feel so awkward and uncomfortable. Now you're all just jealous. 𝙤𝙗𝙗 smirks at Semi. Why hello to you too, Eita. I'm so glad that you finally noticed us. It took you a couple of business days and 402 chapters to notice that your teammates are right in front of you. Yamagata placed a hand on his hip, an imaginary light bulb flickering on top of his head. That chapter is so familiar somehow. 𝙤𝙗𝙗 shrugs. Shirabu, rolling his eyes, wipes away the sloppy kiss Semi gave him on his cheek and stood up, patting down his shorts and fixing his jersey. You're rubbing your sweat on me, idiot. Don't be like that, babe. You love me anyway. Shirabu looks away, trying not to let Semi his flushed face. Semi frowns at him, but quickly composes his composure and grins at his boyfriend, wrapping an arm around his shoulder. But, straying away from the topic. Semi cleared his throat, pulling on the collar of his jersey. Shirabu sucked his teeth, and looked down at the ground. He felt like an idiot. He gritted his teeth and clicked his tongue. He felt so guilty, and he still couldn't help himself. Why is it so hard to show love? Shirabu awkwardly scooched closer to Semi, not caring about the fact that both of them were so sweaty, and how the closer they are, the chances that the heat wouldn't get them wouldn't lessen. Semi tensed a little, then gently pushed him to the side. He gave Shirabu's head top one more peck and glanced at the team who were rolling their eyes at the two. Although, Kawanishi wasn't exactly acting bitter like he usually does, making it a bit more unusual in Shirabu's eyes. Shirabu tried not to feel defeated when Semi pushed him away, and tried to reason silently that it was hot and that they needed space from each other or they'll be a puddle of sweat at this rate. So, bad news. Rian and I were tasked on asking the faculty and staff here on campus and ask about the water supply, right? Turns out, it's not only at our school, but also in Karasuno, Seijo, Date Tech, and others. Tendao pursed his lips. So, we're going to die out of dehydration? I sure hope not. Bye-bye, Goshiki Tsutomu. I hope you rot well in her. Okay, that's enough. Shirabu rolls his eyes as Goshiki stuck his tongue out at him. This seems like he's done that for 100 times today. Yamagata sighs, wiping another bead of sweat that trickled down his forehead. So, what now? Semi was about to answer until he was interrupted by Rian walking towards them with a shijima, holding a paper envelope on his hand. We're going to buy at least 2 gallons of water. Fortunately, not all members are present here during practice, so 2 jugs can suffice. Ashijima handed the envelope to Tendao, who was looking at him in awe. Coach asked us to group at least 3 members to go out and buy 2 to 3 gallons of water, so we'll be discussing amongst ourselves on who the 3 will be. The other members were tasked on making sure everyone is in check and to make sure that when the water comes back, we'll be able to distribute the water evenly to everyone. Which leaves only us here to decide. But, the nearest convenience store is 30 minutes from here. Rian chuckles awkwardly, rubbing the nape of his neck. That's the thing. There's no means of transportation available. So I think you know what happens next. Everyone looked away, busying themselves by observing the floor, the walls, the ceiling while whistling. Anyway. Rian sighs. Wakatoshi and I are in charge of making sure that the rest of the boys here won't feel any discomfort. We already had one close call when someone almost fainted from the heat. Tendao bit his lower lip, trying not to smirk. He places both his hands on the back of his head. I guess I won't be going. I was a junior first aider back in middle school, so I can help when someone needs it. Boo, who are you trying to convince here? I was. Like anyone would believe that. Ashijima nodded. Alright, Tendao is out of the list, so it's up to the 5 of you left. Yamagata's eye twitched, making Tendao smirk in triumph. Thank you, babe. Tendao gave a confused Ashijima a quick peck on his cheek, making Yamagata scoff. Boyfriend privileges isn't cute. You're just jealous you're single. Yamagata rolled his eyes. Well then, I'll be in charge of cleaning the gym. It's a bit messy right now, isn't it? There's only a couple of volleyballs on the court. Thanks. Will do my best. Rian face palmed. Right. Semi is the only 3rd year left among us here, so he's a part of the jug group. Yep, and I'm bringing Shirabu with me. I'd rather not. Semi gave Shirabu a pleading look, making Shirabu sigh in defeat. How could he say no to that? Fine. Yay. Goshiki fake gagged. You. So it's up to Goshiki and Kawanishi. I don't even want to argue anymore. I'll go with Shirabu and Semi. Tendao patted his back reassuringly. It's alright, little one. 3rd wheeling won't be as bad. I'm doing Semi-san a favor here, because I'm sure the 2 might start a street fight and cause a commotion. I'm not that violent. You might as well be with this weather right now. Semi crosses his arms and silently nodded, his face unreadable. All right then, it's settled. Shall we go? Semi, completely ignoring Kawanishi, unbeknownst to everyone, wrapped an arm around Shirabu and snatched the white envelope from Tendao's grasp. He squeezes his shoulder and, almost, dragging him towards the gym doors, leaving Kawanishi behind. It took him a moment to realize that he was going to be left behind. Oh. Wait for me. Kawanishi swiftly bows to the rest of the members before catching up to the 2 couple, coughing. The rest of the team members waved goodbye at them. Tendao and Goshiki straightens their composure with a tear on their eye and saluted. Fare thee well, soldiers. Stop that. What do you mean? You know damn well what I meant. Care to enlighten me? I'm serious, stop it. Kawanishi sighs and raises his hands up in surrender. Geez, fine. But don't think for a second that you think I haven't noticed that troubled look on your face. Would you just drop it already? I'm fine. No, you're not. Yes, I am. You're not. I am. You're definitely not. I am absolutely fine. No, you're not. Yes, I am not. Shirabu crouched on the floor outside of the convenience store's entrance and slaps his palms on either side of his face, making Kawanishi jump a little from the sudden slap. I really am not. Kawanishi pulls on the back of Shirabu's jersey and forces him to stand straight, a mixed expression on his face. We've known each other since we were kids. What's on your mind, Kenji? Shirabu sighs. Am I a bad boyfriend? Kawanishi furrowed his eyebrows. Don't tell me he told you that. No, he didn't. Am I? You're not. Be real with me, Teichi. Don't say it for my sake. I'm not, I'm being completely honest. What made you think that way? Every time he tried to go all lovey-dovey towards me, I didn't know how to reciprocate, and most of the time I reply with something snarky that makes him go all gloomy, and I didn't mean to make him feel that way. I just blurted it out without thinking. He breathes out a breath he didn't know he was holding, feeling a bit tensed that he finally spoke his issues out loud for the first time in months. I genuinely love him, I just don't know what to do, and my mouth just moves on its own without me registering what I said. It will be too late to take it back. I'm tempted to say that you're just acting like a complete tsundere. Watch your mouth. He places his hand on Shirabu's back and pushes him inside the convenience store where Semi was, making him stagger forward and almost losing his balance. When they reached the convenience store, Shirabu suggested that he and Kawanishi call the rest of the members back in Shiratorizawa in hopes that the budget given to them wouldn't be used if the water came by the time they reached the store. Semi reluctantly agreed and went ahead inside, leaving the two alone outside of the convenience store. Of course, that was only half the truth. He felt like he was sucked into the pits of a tight, black, empty hole. He couldn't breathe. He felt so guilty. He bit his tongue to prevent himself from swearing to whoever was up there cursing him to be such a. You know, I think you have alexithymia. Shirabu whipped his head to face Kawanishi, who was looking down at him with pursed lips, his hands now stuffed inside his shorts. What? No, I don't. I don't even know what that is. You can't say you don't when you don't even know what that means. They both turned to the nearest aisle where the beverages were situated, finding the place unusually empty when the water supply was unexpectedly cut off. Well, then, enlighten me. I've read somewhere that people tend to have difficulties identifying and describing their emotions, as well as having a hard time expressing their emotions in such a way that it's difficult to provide other people, in your case, your significant other, with emotional validation. So, you think I have a disorder? No, not particularly. It's not a disorder, but it's something along the lines of having difficulties in social settings and interpersonal relationships. And you somehow think I have alexithymia? I don't know why I came to the sudden conclusion that you do. I just know that you do have trouble expressing your feelings, and you do have some trouble communicating sometimes. It was something that first popped into my mind, and I'm sorry if it came out as rude and intrusive towards you. Honestly, I don't think it's alexithymia. For me, it's as close as you can get to not being described as apathetic. Those two are different, and knowing you, I know you aren't like that, given that we've known each other for quite a long time now. Shirabu lowered his head as he stared at the marble tiles that were reflected brightly by the beaming light on the ceiling. I know you've been struggling with communication ever since we were kids, and that's okay, that's valid. What you're feeling right now is valid and acceptable, don't convince yourself otherwise. What's not okay is not giving it a shot and not putting forth effort, but it seems to me that you're doing quite the opposite, seeing as you were willing to open up to your best friend and acknowledge it. Knowing how telling me this right now took a lot of effort for you to do so. He smiles down at Shirabu. I'm so proud of you for that. Kawanishi places a hand on his shoulder and squeezes it reassuringly. I highly suggest that you have a long talk with Semi regarding this. This has a high possibility of miscommunication between you two if there isn't a long and honest talk about your feelings and his. Shirabu sucked his upper lip, his hands trembling slightly as they were tucked under his arms. Kawanishi softly nudged his side with his elbow. Suck it up, Kenjiro. You knew what you were getting into, and it's about time you had this talk with him. Kawanishi smiles solemnly at Shirabu, who tries his best to suppress his emotions. He makes you the happiest you've ever been. Don't let this be a breaking point in your relationship, let it be a building block to help strengthen it instead. Shirabu breathes out a shaky breath, murmuring a silent thank you to Kawanishi. Since when were you such an oracle? Kawanishi glared at him. This will be the last piece of advice I will be giving you, like, ever. Yeah, I won't anymore. This is the last one in years. So you better savor this rare moment, got it? Shirabu smiled up at him, and the latter grinned down at Shirabu. I find it funny how you're giving me love advice when you're single. Wow, I helped your ass, and you have the audacity to talk smack about me? You're on thin ice. Shirabu chuckles, lightly punching his shoulder. He's happy the convenience store has a big ceiling fan looming all over the place to make the heat more bearable, or right now he would have reacted harshly and not taken his advice into consideration. Kawanishi was about to return the favor until they heard a loud laugh coming from the right aisle that was close to the counter. They followed the familiar voices and halted in their tracks, seeing Semi and a green-haired boy laughing to their heart's content. Shirabu felt his heart drop when he saw Semi laughing when Yamaguchi mouthed a handful of words that he couldn't quite hear, the corner of his lips quivering while his hand clenched into a fist. Semi, who was holding a jug of water on his right while his left was holding the change the cashier gave them, was animatedly talking to Yamaguchi with a wide grin plastered on his face. Yamaguchi, on the other hand, held a much smaller jug compared to theirs with both of his hands, his Karasuno jersey damp from his sweat. Kawanishi noticed Shirabu's unreadable look on his face and panicked, assuming the worst-case scenario. Hey, wait, don't you dare. He was cut off by Shirabu, who yanked Kawanishi along with him, the grip on the horrified boy behind him tightening as they got closer to Semi and Yamaguchi. He quietly tsked as he stomped towards him, making his presence known. The two jolted up in surprise when Shirabu was right in the middle of them, with Kawanishi's face turning blue. He yanks himself from Shirabu's grip and rubs his now red wrists, cursing quietly. Shirabu didn't spare a single glance at Yamaguchi, who was shaking behind him. He was completely facing his boyfriend. He felt completely naked as his boyfriend looked at him up and down, quietly observing him. He knows he'll cringe when he reminisces about this later, but right now, he felt a strange shiver from his neck down to his chest. His heart was beating so loud, he could have sworn he was going to go deaf at this rate. Are you done? Semi places his free hand on his hip, the corner of his lips tugging downward. Yes, I already paid for the jug. Did you need anything else? If so, there's not much left here for us to buy. They estimated the budget to be enough for us to buy at least 2 to 3 jugs. Shirabu shook his head, his teeth biting his tongue accidentally, to the point where he could taste something metallic. He winced, not knowing he had intentionally done so. No, you took too long. He looks over his shoulder to see Yamaguchi rubbing the nape of his neck, his cheeks red. He then squinted his eyes at Semi's curious ones and placed both hands on his hips. He then jutted his thumb, pointing towards the exit. I think we overstayed our visit here, let's go now. Semi nodded slowly, not understanding him. He looked over his shoulder and bowed apologetically to the boy behind him. Sorry, Yans. Duty calls. It was nice seeing you. Shirabu finally turns around to face Yamaguchi, who was also bowing apologetically at Shirabu and Semi. Ah, it was nice meeting you too, Semi-san. He quickly fumbles to bow towards Shirabu. I'm sorry, Kawanishi, I mean, Shirabu-san. I didn't mean to bother you, I'm sure you're all busy. Shirabu, a bit vexed, scratched that. He wasn't just a bit vexed, it was more than that, glared at Yamaguchi. So he remembers Semi's name but not his? Were they always this close? Does he have a crush on him? Is he doing it on purpose? Is that why he's purposely mistaking him for Kawanishi? He could feel his head spin. The heat along with his bitter thoughts went a good mixture together. He's assuming the worst, and he knows what he was thinking about was completely false. So, why is he glaring so much at Yamaguchi? Yeah, you're being a bother. We're busy, we don't need futile conversations with anyone right now. Shirabu bit his tongue again, intentionally this time. Why the hell is he being such an asshole? Semi called over to Shirabu, grabbing his wrist. He snaps his head to see Semi's surprised, irked expression. He gave him a look that he understood well enough to regret the words that flew out of his mouth. Hey, brat, I know it's hot right now, but there's no need for you to be disrespectful. Shirabu gritted his teeth, hoping that he wouldn't further fuel the harshly burning fire. His tongue betrayed him, though, making his stomach drop at what Semi did after he let the words roll out of his tongue. It's definitely hot right now, so why the hell are you still standing there? To carry on with this meaningless conversation? Stop fooling around and let's get back, they need us right now, not whatever the hell you two have. Semi gritted his teeth but stayed silent. Shirabu laughed sarcastically. What? Too busy to even reply? You were fine holding a meaningless conversation just a couple minutes ago. Semi, silently, grabbed the 2 water jugs and walked around Shirabu, ignoring his regretful eyes as he stood next to Yamaguchi. Sorry, Yams. We need to go. Yamaguchi, still smiling nervously, bowed again courteously. It's no problem, Semi-san. He then looks at Shirabu with soft eyes, making Shirabu's guilt eat him alive. Yamaguchi did not deserve that at all. I understand your outburst, Shirabu-san. I apologize once again for mistaking you as Kawanishi-san. Shirabu nodded, then turned his gaze from the ground to Semi walking towards the exits, signaling Kawanishi to follow him. Kawanishi bowed apologetically to Yamaguchi, then gave a pointed look at Shirabu, gesturing through his eyes to Yamaguchi. He then jogged towards a struggling Semi, who was holding the jugs and balancing himself. The two then left, with Semi leaving in a fit of pique. Shirabu then bowed deeply to Yamaguchi, making Yamaguchi squeak. Yamaguchi-kun, I am so sorry. I didn't know what came over me. I didn't mean what I said, I promise. Yamaguchi frantically waves a dismissive hand at Shirabu, then forces him to stand straight. No. Don't ever worry about it. I get it, I really do. Yamaguchi bows his head. It was nice meeting you, Shirabu-san. He gave him a warm smile. Don't worry, I won't take it to heart. He then smiled shyly. I would react that way too if it were Suki, so I totally get it. Suki? Before Shirabu could reply, Yamaguchi turned his back to him and started walking towards the other side, where the other exit door was. Sure enough, he found a tall blonde guy and a silver-haired boy waiting for him outside. Shirabu sighed. He rubbed his temple as he ran towards the convenience store's exit that Semi went out of and ran after them. He needed to get his shit together. The walk back to school felt like an eternity. Shirabu and Semi, still not on speaking terms, were walking ahead of Kawanishi, who ended up bringing one of the jugs to help Semi, although the look on his face when he carried the heavier jug was indescribable. The tension between the two was growing each step they took, and the rays of the sun felt like it seeped through their skins and melted them completely. It wasn't a good combination, and the bubbling feeling of resentment was at its brink at each ragged breath they took. Semi then whipped his head to face his boyfriend, halting in his tracks and crossing his arms. What the hell is going on with you? I get that you're a bit frustrated because it's incredibly hot right now, but that's not an excuse for your behavior towards Yamaguchi. Shirabu, who was in front of Semi with his back facing him, clenched his fist. I don't know what you're talking about. You know damn well what I meant. Shirabu turned to face Semi completely, his eyes fierce as the two were glaring at each other. Neither of them wanted to turn away, his pride got the best of him as he took a step closer towards Semi. Kawanishi noticed the tension and nervously waved his hands in the air, trying to lighten up the atmosphere. How about we talk about it when we're all cooled off, you know? I mean, when do we finally get to take a sip of water after hours of not being able to do so? The two never made eye contact. I mean, there are plenty of private areas in the gym, so maybe let's all cool off and... Kawanishi was interrupted when Semi snapped his head towards him, his vicious glare making Kawanishi shriek and stagger back. Would you just shut up? You're being atrociously annoying right now, do you want me to shove this jug down your throat? Kawanishi shrieked again, then pretended to zip his mouth shut. Shirabu didn't like how he was talking to Kawanishi with that tone, but he silently agreed with him either way. He was annoyed, that's for sure, but there's no way he's letting it pass. Semi, don't say that to him. You're being such an ass. Oh, so I'm the ass now? This is what you did, too, to my acquaintance. Acquaintance? What in the ever-loving fuck do you mean, acquaintance? Your face and that laugh of yours when you were with him don't look like just an acquaintance to me. Semi took a step closer to Shirabu, their gaze never breaking. What are you even going on about? He's my acquaintance, and I don't even know him that well to consider him a friend. Unlike you and Teichi. What the hell are you going on about? Shirabu took a longer step forward. One more inch, and their puffed chests would meet. Shirabu doesn't know what he's feeling right now, anger? No, wait, it made him feel sparks surging through his body. Was it excitement? It can't be. You know exactly what I mean, Shirabu. You didn't think I noticed your little moment between you two in the store, huh? I really don't know what you're talking about, but you're definitely pissing me off. You think I don't feel that way, too? Brat. Shirabu was about to retort when he suddenly noticed Kawanishi struggling with his jug and running towards them. He then snatched the jug Semi had placed on the ground before their argument and ran off, stumbling and almost losing his balance. Kawanishi gave them one last look and hollered. I don't know what's going on, what's going to happen, and frankly, I do not care. If you guys somehow managed to strangle each other, leave me out of this. Shirabu and Semi watched as Kawanishi's running figure was getting smaller and smaller until all they saw was the blinding rays of the sun. Shirabu was about to tell his boyfriend off, still feeling unsatisfied that he didn't get to have the last word until he felt an arm wrapped around his waist and a soft kiss placed on his lips. Shirabu's eyes widened as he looked at his boyfriend, whose eyes fluttered shut. He frantically looked around the streets, afraid that they'll be seen. Fortunately, the street was almost empty except for a few dogs running around and birds flocking by and sitting on the benches nearby. Shirabu found himself deepening the kiss, tugging Semi's hair, and pulling him closer to him. He felt at peace, and it felt like they weren't just arguing a few minutes ago. When he felt like he was running out of breath, he pulled away to meet Semi's eyes, which were filled with softness. Semi smiled softly, then placed one last soft kiss on his lips, then moved away, removing his arms around Shirabu and running the back of his fingers through Shirabu's hair. Semi pulled them both onto a nearby bench and sat them down, with their knees almost touching at how close they were to each other. He doesn't like how he felt like he wanted to break down and tell Semi everything, but every time he did so, the words wouldn't roll off his tongue so easily. After a moment of silence, with them gazing over at the 5 o'clock setting, the sunlight wasn't harshly gazing at their faces anymore, and Semi finally spoke up. I'm sorry. Shirabu looked at his peripheral vision to see Semi looking down at the pavement, his brows furrowed as his hands were pulling on the hems of his jersey. For what? For, I don't know. The kiss? Shirabu felt his heart tug painfully in his chest. Semi must have noticed somehow that he felt that way and quickly interjected. No, don't get the wrong idea. I meant, I'm sorry for kissing you all of a sudden. I should have asked for your permission first. Why? Why, what? Why do you need to ask permission from me? Because you might feel uncomfortable. Why would I be? We're dating, and it's normal to kiss your partner, right? Semi licked his lips. The lips that Shirabu had longed for to meet with him the moment he saw him laughing with the green-haired boy. He felt his heart tug harshly on his chest again. I mean, yeah, it is, but I shouldn't have done that so briskly. I couldn't hold it any longer, and I just wanted to have you right here and now. Shirabu looked away, trying to hide his red cheeks. It's fine, I didn't mind that at all. I'm glad to know, bub. Shirabu felt at ease once more. He missed Semi calling him that instead of his family name, so they have to be a bit calm now to start a conversation. I don't have any regrets, though, if that's what you're worried about. Although, you could use a mouthwash right now. Shirabu snapped his head towards Semi, who had a teasing smirk plastered all over his face. Oh, how he'd love to rip his face apart into tiny, minuscule pieces. I think you're the one who needs mouthwash. After all, the reason you think it smells bad is because your nose is near your mouth. Semi fake gasps, then grinned down at a now smirking Shirabu. Brat. Bastard. They quietly laughed and stared at each other lovingly. If his past self saw him with a boyfriend and having cute moments like this, he'd laugh at the idea and deem it impossible. But right now, he's currently experiencing this moment, and he's more than willing to prove to his past self that there really is love that will pop up in mysterious ways. After another moment of silence, Shirabu broke the silence this time. He gathered enough courage to do so, and he took Kawanishi's advice. How'd you meet him? Who? Yamaguchi from Karasuno. How'd you get acquainted with him? He and I bumped into each other a couple of weeks ago. I accidentally spilled coffee all over his jersey, so I got one for him as compensation. I felt so bad because I didn't have enough sleep due to exams and I didn't see him from behind. Regardless, he asked me for one thing as compensation. And he asked if there was a song that he could use to confess to his best friend, whose name I think was Tsukishima. Suki? Shirabu felt relieved. So that's Suki Yamaguchi was talking about. And I told him what I thought would be best, and that was it. We didn't exchange numbers, and we didn't talk after that. It was only today that we bumped into each other. They didn't have a water supply either, huh? Yeah, that's right. Shirabu bit the inside of his cheek. So he was jealous for nothing? Are they together now? No, not yet. He told me he's working on gaining the confidence to do so soon. If only you could have seen the way he talked about him, and how his eyes twinkled with just him mentioning his name. Semi chuckled at that, but Shirabu frowned. He didn't like not being able to talk like that about him, finding it difficult to do so. Is that it? Yeah, I suppose so. Shirabu nodded, then sat cross-legged on the metal bench. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have reacted that way towards Yamaguchi. Should I really be the one to apologize to? Shut up, I'm getting there. He breathed in a breath, then exhaled, trying to find the right words to say. I shouldn't have to feel this way, because I know you're not stupid enough to date me just for the fun of it. I know you love me, and I know I did too after months of being together. But, I felt a little. Shirabu clenched his fist, trying to force himself to say the word out loud. He's getting there, just with a little more push. Jealous. I was so damn jealous. Semi's eyes widened slightly, but she observed the latter carefully, staying silent. Shirabu continues. I didn't like how someone else got to get that side out of you, how they managed to make you laugh so easily and make you feel more happier with them. I'm happy? Are you, really? Without a doubt, without any hesitations, I am so incredibly happy with you. Shirabu felt his heart race, but he kept the same expression on his face. It's just that I don't know how to express my emotions very well. I think we established that before. What are you getting at? How about you let me finish and shut up for once? Semi cracked a small smile. I'm not good at dealing with emotions, and I'm definitely not good at expressing them, either. It's just hard to say the things you want to say, but it feels like every time I do so, the words don't roll off my tongue so easily. I'm trying my best to be able to communicate properly and express my emotions, but it's so damn hard. I want to tell you how much you mean to me in words, but I ended up chickening out like a coward, and I hate myself for that. Shirabu looked up at Semi with his hunched figure through his lashes and saw fondness in his eyes that made him feel safe for opening up. I look at you, and just love you with every fiber of my being. It terrifies me how strong my feelings are towards you, and what I would do for you. For you, I'll risk it all. Shirabu sighs, massaging the gap between his fingers. I'm sorry for yelling at you, I shouldn't have jumped to conclusions about your relationship with Yamaguchi. That was wrong on my part and I take full responsibility. He bowed his head in shame. Semi will definitely lose feelings for him at this rate and fall out of love, which is what Shirabu was thinking. I understand if you want nothing to do with me after this. I'm such a heavy baggage, and I'll be okay in time. He felt like a knife surged through his chest as he spoke with a low tone. He was ready to leave until he heard Semi chuckle. You're important to me, you piece of shit. For a guy who wants to study medicine, you sure are stupid. Semi stared at the pavement with his lips slightly tugged upward. We talked about this before, and when I said I was willing to love you no matter what, I meant it. I don't care if you suddenly grew 100 meters tall, have a beer belly, haven't showered in months, or whatever, I will still love you. So, if I asked you would you still love me if I were a worm, would you still? I'd jokingly put you on a fishing hook and pretend to feed you to a fish so I could catch a fish for dinner. Wow, it's good to know that you'll keep me safe. I'm kidding. Shirabu scoffed, and crossed his arms with puffed cheeks. Semi chuckled. You're cute. Although you'd look cuter holding my hand, or whatever. Shirabu glanced down at Semi's hand, contemplating doing so, but reluctantly intertwined his fingers together, his face turning hot. Semi chuckled and squeezed their intertwined fingers together. I get jealous, too. Shirabu cocked his head to the side. I know you and Kawanishi are just friends, but I can't help but feel so jealous. I want you all for myself, and I know I shouldn't be greedy and needy. It would be unhealthy for us if I only wanted your attention to be on me. I never craved attention until I tasted yours, Kenjiro. Semi squeezed their intertwined hands together once more, with Shirabu's heart following suit. I'll admit, I'm a sap, and I like cliché romance, and I kind of want to be loved through words as well. I wanted to hear words of affirmation from you more than anyone else. But I understand you. I hear you. It's not easy, and I get it. I accepted that the moment we got into a relationship, and I am fully aware of it. That will never change, I promise you that. Semi licked his chapped lips and sighed. I just feel jealous sometimes, even if I try to flirt with you or do things to try to get your attention, I never get a reaction from you. But then here comes Kawanishi, making you smile with that damn smile that made me fall in love with you. It's selfish, but I want to be the reason why you're smiling, and it kind of stung when it was someone that I was so jealous of. He was the reason why you did so on rare occasions, and I wanted you to smile because of me. Semi chuckled and threw his head back, his eyes sparkling with the soft rays of the sun. Shirabu couldn't help but admire how he was basking in the sun's warm glow. He felt so lost in the sight in front of him. He wanted to kiss his sun-kissed face. That's pretty petty and childish of me to want that, huh? Shirabu shook his head. The reason he was smiling was because they were talking about Semi. If only he knew. I guess we're on the same boat then. Jealousy and whatnot. Semi cracked a smile small. We were talking about you, Semi. What? Kawanishi and I were talking about you. I told him I have difficulties in expressing my emotions towards you, and he suggested I have this talk with you about it because it's been bothering me for months now that I still have trouble communicating. He reassured me that you'll listen to me and that our communication right now will be a building block in our relationship, and how this could help us and me, whatever that could mean. Semi scooched closer to Shirabu, their shoulders brushing against each other. Well, was he right? Shirabu paused, then nodded. Yeah, he was. He gently placed his head on Semi's shoulders. You shouldn't be jealous of him, he's just a childhood friend of mine who literally eats his own boogers like it's real estate and literally chews so loud. Semi cackled. Don't worry, Eita, I'll only love you and only you. Semi kissed Shirabu's head and wrapped an arm around his waist, pulling him close. It didn't matter how prickling the heat was, he wanted to be closer to Semi. He needs him. I need you, idiot. Our stupid conversations mean a lot to me, and I genuinely cherish them. I may not show it often, but I do appreciate the love you give me, and right now, let me tell you how much you mean to me. Shirabu grabbed their intertwined hands and softly pressed the back of Semi's hand against his lips. He felt electricity for a brief moment, and he could have sworn he felt Semi shudder. I love you with all of my heart, Semi Eita. I'll work on myself better and be able to show love through your love language. It'll take a while for me to adjust, but as long as I know you feel loved, then that's enough for me. Semi brings him into a hug, burying his face in Shirabu's neck. Shirabu returned the favor, listening to the beat of his heart, which will always beat just for him. I'm so proud of you, baby. What you're saying right now is more than enough for me, and I'm so glad to hear it from you. Semi pulled away and kissed his cheek, his forehead, and then the tip of his nose. I love you, Shirabu Kenjiro. I'll promise to take care of you, and love you until we're gray and old. Shirabu snorted but kept his grin. What is this, a wedding vow? I'd like to think of this as a rehearsal for hours in the future. Shirabu rolled his eyes and pulled his jersey towards him, making their lips almost touch once more. How about you seal this with a kiss? Semi raised an eyebrow at him, noticing how bold Shirabu was. Maybe it was the fact that the communication they had made him feel better. Semi chuckled at Shirabu's lips, which were itching to meet his. He gently cupped his face with his palm. Deal. Although they had their ups and downs, they knew right here and then that this was their moment. They knew that they weren't perfect, but they knew that they were perfect for each other. Shirabu's phone buzzed, but neither of them noticed. They were too busy loving each other with sun-kissed faces. The phone buzzed again, but they didn't care. There's no better moment than this.
悩まずに生きることさ、俺たちのこの知識、儚まさ